Washington is in an uproar, and there are calls now across party lines to hear from the woman accusing Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. What was once seemingly a sure thing for Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee is now anything but. Let's go to Lindsay Duncombe, who's in our Washington bureau. This woman, Lindsay, speaking publicly in an interview, promising to speak more. Tell us about her.
Well, Christine Blasey Ford is a professor in California, and the incident that she alleges goes back to when she was in high school in the early 80s, the summer of 1982. She says she was at a gathering of teenagers, a party, and Brett Kavanaugh was there. Brett Kavanaugh and a friend, according to Ford, got drunk and they pushed her into a bedroom. She said to the Post, Kavanaugh pinned her to a bed and groped her over her clothes, grinding his body against hers. She goes on to say when she tried to scream, he put his hand over her mouth. Now, she said she escaped, hid in the bathroom, and didn't tell anyone about the story for decades. She did tell the story in a letter to Democrats and in a tip to the Washington Post back in July, but she did not want all of the attention that would come with putting her name to that story. That changed over the weekend when parts of the story had leaked. So certainly now it does change the dynamic here in Washington as we get closer in the confirmation process. Brett Kavanaugh has denied any of this happened. He said in a statement, "I categorically and unequivocally deny these allegations. I did not do this in high school or any other time." And the White House is backing up their nominee.
So the questions, though, now piling on as far as the nominee. What does all of this mean for the planned vote this week on his confirmation?
Well, frankly, right now, Heather, it is all up in the air. The vote is scheduled to take place in the Judiciary Committee on Thursday, and a number of Republican senators, too, have said they need more information. And what that means is that we could be looking at public hearings. Ford, the woman who's making the accusations through her lawyer, has said that she would be willing to appear in front of the committee, and Kavanaugh has said he'd be willing to come back to the committee. So really, we're getting to the point where that may be what happens next, but scheduling is key. What is the White House saying about this? Kellyanne Conway, senior advisor to the president, says the woman deserves to be heard. Here's more from Kellyanne Conway.
Well, this woman should not be insulted and she should not be ignored. I think the Senate is headed to a reasonable approach, allowing this woman to be heard in sworn testimony, allowing Judge Kavanaugh to be heard in sworn testimony about these specific allegations would be added to the very considerable mountain of evidence and considerations that folks will have when they weigh whether or not to vote for Judge Kavanaugh to be on the Supreme Court.
You cannot overstate the importance of timing in all of this, Heather, because the midterm elections are just a couple of months away. If this nomination were to be withdrawn, which certainly isn't what we are looking at this stage, but if it were, there would not necessarily be time for Republicans to come up with a new nominee. Imagine how motivating in the era of Me Too, in the era of Make America Great Again, having that open seat potentially on the Supreme Court would have for voters. But in the meantime, a lot of drama.